So all cards on the table here. I never would have watched Eyes of Wakanda if I wasn't doing this whole YouTube thing. I thought it looked, well, boring as hell. And I fully expected it to be just another in a long line of the low-effort, mindless slop pissed out of the Marvel brand to try to fill up space on the festering wasteland that is the Disney Plus streaming app. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I thought Black Panther 1 was a very mediocre movie, held up by a phenomenal cast. I thought Black Panther 2 was a completely disjointed, rushed mess, trying and succeeding to soulishly cash in on Chadwick Boseman's tragic death. I thought their crappy-ass backdoor pilot for Ironheart was physically painful to watch, and when they followed that crap up with a full series of that crap, I nearly vomited blood while trying to watch through it. And I felt that of the 13 MCU shows that we've gotten on Disney Plus, 9 of them have been total shit, with 4 being shit so fetid and vile that they should seriously consider charges of treason against the people responsible for their creation. The bar could not have been any lower for me going into the series, but about halfway through episode 1, I realized something shocking. Holy shit, is this an actual show? Not a great show or anything, but like a pretty alright one? Not groundbreaking or amazing, but also not just passable due to how bad what came before was. So, color me amazed. Not only did I not hate this show I fully expected to hate, not only did I not mind watching this show that I thought I was going to be fighting sleep over while watching, but I kinda actually liked a couple parts pretty okay. This isn't the usual no effort whatsoever, just shit something out because we need something out kind of content that we're used to, or the it's been completely hijacked to tell one, quote, writers, weird, poorly thought out commentaries on whatever modern issue kind of content that we're used to either. This is a show that is just exactly what it claims to be, and does exactly what it tries to do. It's an anthology show about various members of Wakanda's secret intelligence and espionage force throughout the decades as they go out into the wider world to recover lost and stolen vibranium artifacts. Does that sound boring as hell to you? Well, then it will be, because that's what the show is. Does that sound kinda interesting to you? Well, then it will be, because that's exactly what the show is. No more, but very surprisingly to me, no less as well. And while Black Panther 2 weirdly tried to gaslight you into believing that it's a moral good for Wakanda to hoard their vibranium from the rest of the world, this show, surprisingly, does not do that. It's pretty upfront about why they don't want other nations recovering it, and why they will go to pretty much any cost to recover it for themselves. They just don't want other people having any. Just pretty much that simple. Because then those other people, those other nations, could threaten Wakanda. And they openly want to keep a monopoly over it because it keeps them as the dominant force on the planet, so they can do whatever the hell they want. Just the same reason it's stupid for a country that's developed guns to give guns out to every other nation. Because when you're the only ones with guns, nobody can shoot you with guns. And while the other movies made a big deal of it being outsiders who came in and leaked out their vibranium, as a ham-fisted metaphor for fill-in-the-blank people exploiting fill-in-the-blank people, yada yada yada, this show's reasoning is a little more interesting. As in the first episode, it was a rogue Wakandan agent who stole a bunch of vibranium weapons from Wakanda so that he could free himself of their rule and set up his own pirate empire. With those weapons then getting lost at sea, and there we have the setup for this show. Now, yes, I know. For those of you looking at these ugly-ass visuals on the screen and wondering why the fuck I'm giving this visual vomit any credit for, yes, the art style it can be ugly as hell sometimes. And the animation isn't anything that special. I'd describe the art style as Star Wars Rebels with half the budget. And by that, I do mean Season 1 of Rebels. But whatever my personal grievances with this show's art style, let me say this. At least it has a fucking art style, man. Unlike the absolutely hideous shit we're used to out of the MCU's, quote, animation. Like that ugly, artless crap we got for 3 eye-raping seasons of What If. In episode 1, you follow a woman who was kicked out of the Dora Milaje training for being too individualistic, sent to track down a member of the Hatat Zaraza who abandoned his post for the exact same reason that she did, taking many vibranium weapons with him, and forcing her to confront her beliefs about herself and Wakanda. 2 gives us a member of that Hatat Zaraza working alongside and forming a close bond with literally Achilles at the end of the Trojan War, in a secret mission to retrieve a vibranium artifact from the Trojans that pulls him between his loyalties to his new friend and to his nation. 3 follows a member who retrieves a Chinese idol with vibranium within it, only to be tracked back to Wakanda by the current holder of the mantle of Iron Fist, a woman he developed a relationship with, who believes that he's the one who's actually robbed her culture. And 4 is about the third-born prince of Wakanda, on a mission to retrieve an artifact to secure his legacy, being confronted with whether fulfilling his mission is actually the best way to help the world in the long run. There's a running theme throughout all of these episodes, I know, a theme in an MCU show, of the question, how much are you willing to, and how much is right to, sacrifice for the good of your people and your country, with sacrifices like friendship, romance, family, your life, as well as the lives of others, and your very legacy, all questioned throughout the different eras in the pursuit of securing the safety and dominance of Wakanda, with each character reaching a different answer based on their own character and story. There is also the running question that was raised in the first Black Panther of if it is right to keep your culture closed off from the world in order to keep it safe, or is it right to open it up to the world and risk its destruction for the good of all of our species? These are incredibly difficult questions, and I don't think the show really answers any of them that well. But it's nice to actually see writers explore and play with themes that aren't just stupid, since we've gotten used to some pretty fucking shitty so-called themes in a lot of these MCU shows. From Falcon and the Winter Soldier's overarching theme of the history of this shield, that has previously been used only for explicitly heroic acts by the single greatest hero of all time, who entrusted it to me of all people in the world to keep it safe and continue its legacy, is complicated. To She-Hulk's theme of, it's my show. Why should I have to make the show I was hired to make and longtime fans of the character would want to see, instead of just pettily venting out my entitled self-victimizing grievances against the world due to me being so talentless that I'm slumming at writing a show based on someone more talented than me's work instead of getting to make my own show? And of course, Echo's iconic theme of whatever the fuck that show is supposed to be about. With Eyes of Wakanda, we get some themes that are not just some random writer's weird, poorly thought out opinions on some topical topic, but something more timeless and universal. We get a theme that's explored from multiple different angles, instead of just bombarding you over the head with what you're supposed to think to be a good boy. It's absolutely and positively nothing groundbreaking, but damn is it certainly refreshing. And while I expected the Wakandans to be portrayed as just the good guys, with outsiders portrayed as the bad guys for stealing their artifacts, this is not how the show is at all. This show is not about good or evil. Every character and country is portrayed as just human, with opinions and beliefs that drive them and force them into conflict with each other. The Wakandans we follow make mistakes and have regrets. The people from the rest of the world do as well. When a Wakandan infiltrates the Greeks and aids Achilles in overtaking Troy, all 3 sides of that conflict are portrayed as human. When we see Italy fighting against Ethiopia, the whole conflict is portrayed through a neutral historical lens, surprising the crap out of me. The most overtly evil character in this show is a Wakandan in the first episode. I really expected some historically inept writer to use the excuse of this show being based in different time periods as an excuse to force modern day thinking into those time periods to wag their finger righteously at people who've been dead for hundreds of fucking years, and make awkward comparisons towards whatever they believe are the greatest evils of the modern day, but in those time periods, in the shittiest metaphors you could possibly imagine. But it really isn't. These time periods were chosen because they're friggin' cool and visually interesting. And I'm shocked, but the writers had enough self-awareness to know that making judgmental commentaries on past cultures is just gonna invite people to talk about how shitty and selfish Wakandan society is. And since the entire point of this show is to portray Wakanda as friggin' badass, that would just be a stupid mistake that they did not make at all. The action is alright as well. Nothing to write home about. But you get to see Achilles jump kick a sword through a dude's shield into his chest, and an Iron Fist punching out Wakandan tech, so there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Overall, this show is just fine and dandy. If all MCU shows were like this, I think a lot less people would be bitching about them all the time, myself included. Just a moderately fun, moderately interesting little story that's completely and utterly unimportant to the overall storyline of the universe. But it's there for anyone who's interested in seeing more MCU stuff if they've got a little time to waste. But here's the main problem. None of that matters because no one is going to watch this show. Tell me the truth, pal. Did you watch it? Were you ever planning to? I sure wasn't. If not for wanting to tell you how this newest MCU show was, I'd never have given the show a chance. And even now, if you're one of the many people who did not watch it, you're not gonna go hand Disney $16 to watch it right when you finish this video because I said, it's pretty okay. Because here's the thing. Who the hell is this show even for? It's way too dark for kids. It's super violent, with a dude getting impaled in the forehead with an axe, a guy bleeding out in a pool of water, dudes being stabbed to death in their sleep, people being gunned down left and right in a literal war zone. But it's too childish for your average adult, who would never touch something, animated, with a 10-foot pole, unless it's the 17th newest animated family sitcom to come out. It's really not for superhero fans like myself either, since it's not a superhero show. It's about regular people with vibranium shit to punch people with. And even their Iron Fist being an original character, and not one from the history of that mantle in the comics. And it's also not even a show about various Black Panthers throughout the ages either. It's just regular Wakandan agents. It's really not that much for MCU fans, since it's pretty disjointed from the overall universe. It's not to bring in new fans, since it's not in any specific genre that new fans would even find in the first place and be brought into the MCU in, like some films like Ant-Man bring in people who are more fans of comedy, or Winter Soldier brought in people who are more fans of standard action films. It's for maybe an incredibly small niche of hardcore adult Black Panther fans. Well, not even Black Panther fans, specifically just fans of the idea of Wakanda. But this show isn't that much about world building of Wakanda or anything either, so really it's a show targeting no one specific. It exists because Disney needs a constant update of new content shit out onto their streaming service. That's sadly about it. And is that where we frickin' are? Where some random shit they greenlit, did not care about, and dropped all on the same day without even doing much advertising for, is substantially better than shows they spent $100 million friggin' dollars on, advertised every frickin' place you goddamn turn, and stretched out across weeks so you had to be subscribed that whole time to watch them? Because they were that confident they would do well? Are the people in charge so out of touch with what content is good and what is bad that they think, you know what, I'm not even going to finish that sentence. We all know they fucking are. Anyways, on a ranking of Disney Plus MCU shows that goes from Echo to Loki, I'd place Eyes of Wakanda at about a rating of Moon Knight, if the character of Moon Knight had not been in that show. So, you get some interesting Egyptian stuff, you get some moderately interesting characters and ideas, but you would wonder, what the hell is this show and why was it made? If you gave this show a watch, let me know. I'd love to hear what all two of you think in the comments. I'm very curious if anyone bothers to even watch this video, since no one seems interested in this thing anywhere that I'm looking, and they clearly just tossed it in the bucket at the tail end of Fantastic Four so it'd be buried without affecting people's impressions of the MCU before that movie came out. Let's hope, though, that this'll be at least the new normal for these MCU shows, but I friggin' doubt it. Let's see, what do we got next? Oh, great. Marvel Zombies. A show based on a pretty shitty episode of a very shitty show that shit all over one of the best out-of-continuity stories Marvel's ever published, while completely missing the whole point of what made that series so friggin' unique. Oh, and look, it's written by that asshole who had Mary Jane fuck that loser guy. Woohoo! Oh, I can't wait. Make sure to click all them buttons below if you're excited to see me talk about that. Boy, Marvel, thanks for giving me so much to work with from here until fucking 2026. Ugh.